Hi, my name is Melissa Trimble, and I'm a special education teacher at Eden Elementary in Pell City, Alabama. Eden is a Title I school, and we serve students in grades kindergarten through fourth. I am a special education teacher in the resource room, and I work with all students K through 4, and I work with them on reading, writing, math, social skills, as well as behavior intervention. I also have a couple of students who are working towards AAA standards, and I work with them on all subject areas. So today I'd like to talk to you about my signature project, which was the effects of repeated reading on fluency. So in my role as special education resource teacher at Eden Elementary, I currently serve 28 students in grades K through 4, and out of those 28 students, 26 of them receive reading services from me. So many of my resource students are reading below grade level, and the low reading fluency is one of the most common concerns. When students read slowly and struggle to decode words, it takes so much of their cognitive effort just to figure out the words that very little attention. It takes so much effort to figure out those words that very little attention is left for understanding what they have read. For example, a student may spend a significant time sounding out a simple sentence like "the dog is black." This may sound something like this: the og dog is black. Black. Well, by the time they've slowly decoded each word, they often cannot tell you what the sentence actually said because all of their cognitive energy was used just to read those words. As a result, low fluency directly impacts comprehension and makes it difficult for students to access grade level content across subject areas. Another challenge that I find is instructional time. Students typically receive only 30 minutes of reading intervention per day, which limits how much targeted instruction can be provided. Because of these factors, there is clear need for an efficient, evidence-based intervention that can be implemented within the limited time available. So some of the data I've looked at. So to better understand the need, I reviewed pre-project data from M-Class scores, iReady scores, and classroom fluency measures. Across grade levels, a large percentage of resource students were performing below benchmark. In several grades, more than half of students were below expectations. These results confirmed that fluency deficits were a consistent need across the resource population. Based on this data, improving reading fluency became the focus of this project. So why does fluency matter? Well, reading fluency is critical for reading comprehension. When students read automatically, they can focus on understanding the text. However, students that have weak fluency use most of their mental energy decoding words. So after slowly sounding out a sentence, they often cannot explain what they have read. This difficulty affects all content areas, including science, social studies, and math when they started involving reading. So, I typically ask my students, what is your favorite subject and what is your least favorite? Well, reading is usually their least favorite, and math is usually their favorite. But when they start involving word problems, they just see the numbers and they just automatically decide to either add or subtract, and so they don't always get it correct then, and so then they start to lose their confidence a little bit because their favorite subject is the one that they were doing well in, and now they're not doing well, and there's no subjects that they are doing well in because reading affects all of them, and so they kind of lose their motivation for school a lot of times. So, without targeted support, students who struggle with fluency often fall further behind and may begin to avoid reading. What does research say? Research says that repeated reading as an effective strategy for is an effective strategy for improving fluency. Studies show it increases reading rate and accuracy, which also supports comprehension. Providing corrective feedback makes that strategy even more effective by helping students practice words correctly. So repeated reading has been shown to especially be beneficial for students with reading difficulties, making it appropriate for the resource setting. So the intervention plan or the action plan that I was working on. This project would be implemented, repeated reading 3 times per week for 6 weeks. So the sessions were designed to fit within 30-minute resource block, and students will be practicing short passages from the adopted curriculum to maintain alignment with grade level instruction. During each session, the teacher provides modeling and immediate corrective feedback. So the participants in this study would include 12 resource students in grades K through 4. Students will be selected based on 2 criteria. 1, that they are below benchmark in fluency, and 2, that they have documented reading needs in their IEPs. So 6 students will be receiving the repeated reading intervention, while 6 will continue with regular instruction as a comparison group. So measurement, how would we measure this? So student progress would be measured using words correct per minute, or WCPM, which is a commonly used and research-based measure for reading fluency. During the first week, baseline data would be collected to establish each student's current fluency level. And then the repeated reading intervention would be implemented over the next 6-week period, with students participating in 3 sessions per week. Throughout the intervention, weekly progress monitoring would be conducted to track student growth and determine whether the intervention was producing improvement. At the end of the intervention period, a post-assessment would be administered to compare student performance to baseline levels on week 8. So using consistent procedures and curriculum-based passages help ensure that the data are both reliable and meaningful, allowing instructional decisions to be based on student progress over time. So collaboration. It's very important to have collaboration from everyone involved. So gen ed teachers would assist with scheduling and communicate about student progress. Elementary is notorious for having all sorts of activities, assemblies, parties, extra recess. So it would be very important to have the gen ed teachers on board so that they can help assist and make sure that their students arrive on time and make sure that they come to all of their interventions. It would also be important to have administrative approval to ensure that the project is aligned with school goals. A paraprofessional would also be beneficial to help out in the room and help during small group instruction when needed. So a collaboration would help the intervention fit smoothly within the school setting, and it is very important. So ethics and limitations. There are several ethical considerations that were addressed in the design of this project. So first of all, parent consent would be obtained prior to student participation, and all student information would be kept confidential. No identifying information would be reported in any of the data or presentations. The intervention itself poses minimal risk to participants, as repeated reading is an instructional strategy that aligns with typical educational practices and is designed to support student learning. There are also several limitations to consider. First of all, the small sample size limits the ability to generalize the results into a larger population. In addition, the short duration of the intervention may not allow enough time to observe the full extent of student growth. And then finally, because the project is conducted within a single school setting, the results may be influenced by factors specific to that environment. Another practical limitation is that my caseload has grown significantly since the project was initially designed, which affected the number of students who could realistically participate in the intervention. So let's talk about expected outcomes. Although this project did not include actual implementation, the expected outcomes are based on strong research supporting repeated reading interventions. First, students would be expected to demonstrate increased reading fluency, measured by words correct per minute. Repeated practice with the same passage allows students to build accuracy, automaticity, and appropriate reading rate. As fluency improves, comprehension is also expected to improve. When students are no longer using most of their cognitive effort to decode individual words, they are better able to focus on meaning and understanding that text. Another important expected outcome is increased student confidence. Many struggling readers develop avoidance behaviors and rely on guessing because they do not feel successful. As students experience success and become more fluent, they are more likely to take risks. attempt unfamiliar words, and engage more actively in reading tasks. Ultimately, improved fluency and confidence would support better access to grade level instruction across content areas. These projected outcomes align with existing research on repeated reading and its effectiveness for students with reading difficulties. So, a strength of this project is that intervention is both research based and practical for a resource setting. And future improvements can include a larger sample size, longer timeline, and direct measures of comprehension. Because my caseload has grown, future implementation would also require adjustments to time and group size. So, some of the next steps based on the design of this project, there are several next steps that could support long term implementation. First, this intervention can be expanded across additional grade levels within the resource program. Because repeated reading is flexible and can be adapted to different reading levels, it has the potential to support a wide range of students. Another important step would be providing training or support for teachers and paraprofessionals so that interventions can be implemented consistently. With proper training, repeated reading could be not only used in the resource setting, but also during classroom interventions or small group instruction. This strategy could also be incorporated into existing intervention blocks of Tier 2 and Tier 3 support times, allowing students to receive additional fluency practice without requiring major schedule changes. Finally, ongoing progress monitoring would be essential to ensure that students continue to make growth and that instructional decisions are based on data. Regular monitoring would also help determine when students are ready to move on to more advanced reading tasks. So, in conclusion, reading fluency is a critical foundation for overall reading success. When students struggle to read accurately and automatically, their comprehension, confidence, and ability to access grade level content are significantly affected. For many students in the resource setting, fluency challenges create barriers across all academic areas, not just reading. Repeated reading is an effective and practical intervention that can be implemented within the limited time available for specialized instruction. It requires minimal materials, allows the frequent progress monitoring, and can be adapted to meet individual student needs. Most importantly, improving fluency helps students to become more confident readers. When students experience success and begin to read more automatically, they are more willing to take risks and engage in reading tasks and participate in classroom learning. Supporting fluency is not simply about increasing reading speed, it is about giving students the skills and confidence they need to understand what they read. Also helps them to access the curriculum and experience greater academic success. Thank you.